Hello, everyone. My name is Ona Armstrong, and I own Firefly Valley Arts and Wellness here in Asheville, North Carolina. This is a quick presentation about Ayurvedic tips for digestion, and specifically digestive distress in the areas of acid reflux and diarrhea, and also constipation and gas and bloating. I hope you enjoy this presentation, and if you'd like to work with me more, you can find me at fireflyvalleydesign.com. And I am going to start sharing my screen now. And our slides up. Here we go. So how to have easeful digestion using the wisdom of opposites. An Ayurvedic wellness and digestion retreat just for you. So I just wanted to first say that I am a wellness educator. I am on my way to being an Ayurvedic health counselor, which means I am not a doctor. I'm not an Ayurvedic practitioner. I will never personally prescribe any kinds of diet, herbs, or lifestyle to you. And I will never diagnose any diseases. And I will never take you off any medications or herbal supplements that you are on. Think of today as me being your teacher, right? And this is a class where I can give you ideas to research to see if they were right for you, and make sure that you are consulting with your medical provider to make sure this is in congruence with what the path that you're on with them as well. All righty, okay, let's go. So Ayurveda, we pronounce it Ayur and then Veda. Ayur means life and Veda means knowledge. This is a Sanskrit word because Ayurveda comes from ancient traditions of India. This tradition is over 5,000 years old, and we use the wisdom of opposites to heal. So for example, if someone is having a lot of heat in their body with acid reflux or diarrhea, we want to heal with the wisdom of the opposite quality of hot, which is cool, right? And so you'll probably see me doing this a lot, which means we're using the opposite quality to heal a condition in the body. I also like to think of Ayurveda as wisdom from grandmothers in kitchens, right? So on a good day when I'm cooking in my kitchen, I look out my back door and I say, outside is really cold and it's really dry today, if it was in, November, December, January. And so what I might make in the kitchen will have the opposite qualities of what I see outside. So for example, if it's cold and dry out there, I will make something warm and moist, right? So warm and moist is the opposite of cold and dry. The Sanskrit word for those words are called gunas, and they just mean qualities. Also, Goldilocks medicine is another way that I describe Ayurveda because, when Goldilocks went into the bear's house and she found the porridge that was too hot and another that was too cold, and the one in the middle was just right, we want our bodies to not be too hot and not be too cold. We want it to be just right. I used to be a kindergarten teacher for a long time, so you'll probably see a lot of things that remind you of kindergarten. All right, so digestion Ayurveda is seen as the basement of health. So if you see this picture of this house on the left-hand side, the basement is a little bit cattywampus, right? And so Ayurveda believes that if digestion is happening effectively and efficiently, you can build all of the tissue layers of the body and have everlasting health, as you might see in the metaphor here of the cityscape. So today, let's pretend that we are going to eat some soup. Alrighty. And Ayurveda believes that it will take 45 days for this soup to go through all of the layers of our body. Okay. On the first day, the first 5 days, the blood plasma or the rasa dhatu will be receiving nourishment from that soup that we eat. And then the second set of 5 days, it will go into let me back up here. The first 5 days, it will go into the rasa, which means the blood plasma. That's your lymph system. And then the next layer, the tissue layer that our soup would help would be the rakta, or the blood layer. Okay, those are our red blood cells. And then from day 10 to day 15, our soup would go to the muscle layer. And after that, it would go to the fat layer. And then after that, it would go to the bone layer. And the Maja Dhatu is the nervous system layer. And then the Shukra and the Artava are our reproductive layers. Alrighty. And so it's really interesting when I look at this diagram here, because a lot of things that we deal with in life, challenges, especially with digestion, have to do with how hydrated we are in that first tissue layer, the rasa layer, right? And so a lot of times I'm able to help people with very simple fixes to rehydrate their bodies and make their bodies into an environment that accepts water and lets water really soak into all of these layers, okay? And the next layer that I'm really very easy, it's almost easy sometimes to help people make sure that their next layer, which is the blood layer, if their iron levels are up, right? If they're hydrated, then their iron levels can be raised to good levels. And so we want to make sure that the lymph layer and the blood layer are not too thick and not too thin, not too hot and not too cold, right? And so as you look through these layers, you can imagine some challenges that people might have, you know, with their muscle layer or their fat layer, too much or too little, right? We can talk about the bone tissue being too wet or too dry, like in osteoporosis, right? We can talk about the nervous system layer, the nerve tissue layer, the Maja Dhatu being either too mobile, right, in anxiety, or too stable, as in like sedentary and depression kinds of things that we might see. And last but not least, the Shukra and the Artava, which are the male and female reproductive systems, are the very last car on the train, if you will, right? And so we're seeing a lot these days, people having challenges with reproduction, and it's really interesting to think, you know, this is the last stop on the train, right? Or the last car on the train. And so that is one reason that we're seeing a lot of this, that for the Shukra and Artava, the reproductive system, to be nourished, all the other ones need to be nourished in that order until that one is good. So if someone is dehydrated or has low iron or has other distress in the tissue layers, their reproductive layer won't be addressed until all the other ones are addressed first. It's interesting, right? Alrighty. So our digestion, if the bedrock of our wellness is digestion, our digestion is like a fire. So let's pretend we're going camping, alrighty? And we want to feed our digestion, or our Agni. This is a Sanskrit word that's spelled A-G-N-I, or Agni. We want to think of it as a fire. And just like Goldilocks, we want our fire to be not too hot and not too cool, right? And so we want to make sure that we feed our digestion just like a fire. Now, our digestive fire is actually linked to another thing in our universe that has a lot of fire, which is the sun, right? So if you think about the sun coming up in the morning, there's not a lot of sun coming through it, or in, you know, as we wake up, or some of us have, as we wake up first thing in the morning. But as the sun rises between 10 and 2 p.m., that is a very bright time of day, and that fire in the sky is burning brightly, right? And after 2 p.m., going all the way down to nighttime, that sun fades. Our digestion is the same way, depending on who we are and what kind of fire we have inside of us, which relates to our base constitutions, right? Some people are very hungry, and some people's digestion is a little bit cooler and a little bit slower, right? So as we think about our digestion, we want to think about if our digestive fire is linked to the sun in the morning, we want to give it easily burnable, you know, material to eat, right? We're eating things that are more easily digested. Just like in the morning, if you were camping and you had a fire from the night before and there were only coals in the bottom. For breakfast, you wouldn't feed your fire a humongous oak log. You would start with the tiny little twigs that are nice and dry, and you'd put them on there, right? Maybe even some newspaper to like get it started, right? And then those sticks would burn, and that fire would then have the strength to take on some medium-sized wood, right? And in the middle of the day, we might throw a big oak log on there, right? And then we'd let that fire burn all the way down so that we won't have much coal or ash or big chunks of logs left, right? And then towards the end of the day, we would let that fire burn all the way down when it was time to go to sleep, right? So we want to look at our digestion just like that, okay? So in the morning time, we're eating things that are a little bit easier to digest to help our Agni or our digestive fire get build slowly, right? And then in the middle of the day, that's when we want to eat the biggest meal of the day with the calories that we need for that time of day. Our bile production is the highest when the sun is highest in the sky, right? Our gallbladder squeezes bile, our liver helps digest all those fats and send the nutrients where they need to go, right? And so that is happening most efficiently in the middle of the day. If you think of people in farming cultures today and a long time ago, they used to have their main meal in the middle of the day. And then when the sun was going down and their bile production was going down, they were so smart. They were like, you know what? I think I am going to eat a supplemental dinner, right? Supper, that's what that word came from, that was smaller. And they ate it while the sun was still in the sky, right? Around 4 or 5. And then they went all night. They ate a small breakfast, and then they eat their biggest meal in the middle of the day, right? So our bile production really corresponds to where the sun is in the sky. Alrighty. So not too wet, not too dry in the morning. I wouldn't put a bunch of wet wood on the fire. I might put some wet wood in the middle of the day when the fire is high, right? And so not too little, not too much. We don't want to put too few logs on the fire because they would burn up and we'd get hangry, right? But not too much also because it would sort of block airflow, right? And block digestion. Last but not least, let it burn down completely. So if we were always adding logs all day long, right? And there was unburned wood material at the bottom of the fire, that would just sit there, right? And it wouldn't burn. And when we have food that's undigested in our bodies, we call this ama. It turns into toxins. And then those toxins get stored in fat cells. They get stored in other places in our bodies. We see white coating on our tongue maybe in the morning when we wake up. Maybe we have bad breath, or we have our elimination, our poop is a little bit sticky and it sinks down, right? These are all, or we have body odor, you know, strong body odor. These are all symptoms of having undigested food in our systems, okay? So we want to feed our digestion like a fire. Righty, next slide, here we go. So which kind of fire do you have in your belly? What types of digestion do you experience? So I'm going to talk about 2 different kinds of digestion today that are seen a lot. And there is a third kind as well that I will mention at the end. So you might have what I call exploding volcano belly. This has the qualities of hot, oily, sharp, spreading, and light and pungent. That means spicy and liquid. Right. And so these have a lot of fire in them. And just like in Chinese medicine, Ayurveda has an elemental quality, and we would call this dosha, or this kind of digestion, pitta digestion. Pitta is a fire. So think of a fire pit, and that is pitta, right? And pitta has mostly fire, but about 10% water. And on the other side, you might experience another kind of digestion that is very different. It's cold, and it's dry, and it's rough, and it's mobile, and it's clear. And we would experience these things if we had dry, rough constipation, right? Or cold, dry, mobile gas and bloating, right? And of course, diarrhea and acid reflux would be our exploding volcano belly. So we have exploding volcano belly, and we also have cold winter digestion, which we call. Now, vata is the Sanskrit word that is the dosha that has a lot of air and ether in it, and it has these qualities of cold, light, dry, rough, mobile, and clear. So just take a minute to think about which one do you experience, and you might experience both. So if you have blasting volcano belly, you have some acid reflux, diarrhea, things like that, hot burps. So is your digestion hot? Maybe you digest food quickly. Maybe you experience acid reflux, hot burping, or pains in your chest. Maybe your digestion feels oily or liquid. Maybe when you eat something, it goes right through you. You don't really have time to digest it and receive the nutrients from it. Maybe it's you have liquid poop, right? Explosive evacuation of bowels. Maybe your digestion is sharp. Maybe you get hangry quickly and you get an acid stomach with sharp pains. And maybe your elimination is light, right? And so maybe you have like really stinky elimination. Maybe you have fluffy cow patty type stools. If they have a lot of yellow color, that means you have this blasting volcano belly, which is connected to pitta digestion. And so sort of the home of pitta is in your liver. And what your liver really uses a lot is bile to break down fats. And so if your stools are yellowish in color and runny, that means there's a lot of bile in your system. Okay. Often hot, wet digestion is caused by eating these foods. So feel free to think about what are you attracted to eating and see if any of these foods might be the culprit. If you like hot foods like chilies or sriracha, right? Or salsa, spicy foods, sour foods like lemonade, salty or fried foods, think about the foods that you might eat if you go to the state fair, right? French fries, turkey legs, fried, meats and things like that. Another thing that really sparks blasting volcano belly is alcohol because of the sharp, sour, pungent kinds of tastes of alcohol. Caffeine is like coffee or black tea, also have that quality of being pitta inducing, making sure, really feeding that volcano. Fermented foods like kimchi or kombucha. Also some lifestyle things about eating. If you eat quickly on the go, if you're checking your phone on your feet in the kitchen while you're shoving some food in your mouth, right? And not really thinking about chewing, not really feeling your saliva permeate the food, not taking a small rest after eating, you might experience some of these symptoms, okay? Maybe you're angry or distraught and you're eating because you want to sort of, pacify those feelings. And so, of course, if you have blasting volcano belly or diarrhea, it's very important that you go see your healthcare provider if you have more than a day or two of this, because it can cause dehydration. All righty, so the next thing we're going to do is talk about tips for volcano belly. So I had a nice hot picture on the last slide, and now we're going to go to a cool forest scene to talk about how we can sort of pacify volcano belly. So how can we calm the fire a bit with the opposite qualities, of hot, oily, sharp, light, and spreading, okay? So one thing that you can do for volcano belly is to make sure that you're eating sitting down. And so I know personally, with a lot of pitta or fire in my constitution, in my body, mind, this is a hard thing to do, is take time to sit while I eat. And so before I eat on a good day, I pick up my bowl of food and I smell it. And so what that does is it helps my stomach get ready to receive visitors of food, right? And so I don't know about you all, but when you're receiving visitors at your home, you like to know who's coming, perhaps, right? Maybe you're going to prepare your house for them. Maybe you're going to turn down the music. Maybe you're going to turn down the lights. Maybe you're going to get their favorite food ready. You're going to make up the guest bedroom, right? Just for them. And so your belly wants to treat the food that you're about to eat just like a beloved visitor. And so if I smell my food, my body is recognizing internally the enzymes that are going to be needed to digest that particular food. Okay. So smell food and take 1 to 3 long, deep breaths. Let your tummy come out when you take these breaths, when you breathe in, because that's going to increase circulation in your digestive system. Alrighty. Eating while sucking in your belly is really causing a lot of constriction in there, right? And it's hard for juices and air and all the things that need to happen to flow in there while you're eating if you're sucking your belly in. So let your belly go while you eat and let it do its job, right? With adequate circulation. So what to eat for volcano belly? The million-dollar question, right? Now we're going to get some cool foods in us, okay? So foods can be cooling or heating, right? And so if you go to joyfulbelly.com, this is a really great resource. This is connected to the school that I'm a part of right now. And you can look up food by ingredient and see if it is cooling or heating, okay? And so some cool food ideas include coconut water, and pomegranate juice and aloe. Those 3 things, I like to make a drink of all 3 of those together. And that really cools your liver and it really helps bile not take over, really helps cool down digestion, right? Coconut water is great. Soups and stews like Thai coconut broth soup, so you can have cooked meals, because when you cook things together, that really almost helps them pre-digest, and it takes fewer kinds of enzymes to digest that. It makes it very simple for your belly, right? Think about baby food, and we cook food for babies because it's easier to digest that way. We want to help our bellies be like a baby, right? I have a slide at the very end about that, so we'll get to it. There are teas that are cooling. If you take coriander seed, cumin seed, and fennel seed and make a tea out of it, that's very cooling. And then a chutney idea would be cilantro, mint, and coconut chutney. Okay? So we're going to avoid the hot, sharp, and oily foods and focus on the cool, the drying, the slow, heavy, and stable foods to help volcano belly. Okay. Now we're going to switch over to the other kind of digestion, the winter desert belly, which is more vata, more air and ether, right? This is a drier thing, right? It's a cooler kind of digestion. So is your digestion cold? Maybe you experience cramping before, during, or after eating. Maybe you don't really get hungry much, right? You have low hunger levels. You might forget to eat. You might skip meals because of stomach aches. Is your digestion light? Meaning, is there a lot of air and ether in your belly, gas and bloating, right? Is it dry? Do you get constipation? Like rabbit pellet stools, or even formed stools that have big cracks in them because they're really dry and hard to push out. And maybe they're rough, right? Dry or cracked stools with those rabbit pellet stools and straining to eliminate. And maybe you feel very mobile. Maybe you feel you forget to eat, you're easily distracted, or you might be obsessed with food, like staying in the kitchen all day, making food all day long, and maybe alternating between diarrhea and constipation. For all of these symptoms, we do the same thing, okay, to pacify. So often, cold, light, dry digestion is caused by eating cold, light, dry foods, right? Do you enjoy things like salads? Okay, or things like corn chips or green smoothies with lots of ingredients in them, okay? For every ingredient you put into a smoothie, your body has to conjure up the particular enzymes to make that, unless you cook that smoothie down, right? And make those all of the different kinds of proteins combine and use less enzymes for that. Those cold smoothies, your fire needs to be midday fire, really hot, and only for some people, right? If they have that digestive strength, they can do that. Okay. So another thing that you can do that really encourages gas and bloating and constipation is eating on an irregular schedule. So think about when you have guests coming to your home, you would like to know when they're arriving, right? So you can be ready. So if you're eating at different times of day or skipping meals erratically, your body isn't ready to receive that food. It's going to be caught off guard. Okay. The third reason that gas and bloating and constipation happens is because of dehydration in the stomach, okay? So our stomach makes ideally over 3 liters of digestive enzymes every day, and you need to be hydrating in a really good way to support that enzymatic making of those enzymes, okay? So making sure that you have enough enzymes and stomach acid ready to go. So tips for constipation, gas, and bloating, AKA winter desert belly. How can we stoke the fire with the opposite qualities of cold, light, dry, rough, and mobile? Okay, so we're going to focus on warm, stable things, right? So once again, sitting down for a meal is very important. It introduces the stable and heavy qualities into that experience of eating. Alrighty. Once again, taking time to smell your food and taking 3 long, deep breaths so that your body can recognize the enzymes that are needed for that particular meal. And you can increase the circulation in your digestive system and your thoracic cavity so that you can really help your digestion happen in an efficient, happy way. Alrighty. So eating on a schedule is really important. And people who have this kind of base constitution of a lot of vata, which is air and ether, they don't really want to be on a schedule because there are creative, sporadic types, right? They're in charge of themselves and nobody's going to tell them what to do, right? And they love that sporadicness of life. And so sometimes, you're grabbing a bar here or a green smoothie there on the way to your next creative appointment, right? And so what I would invite you to do is look at scheduling your meals as a way to be more creative, right? So if you eat every day at 8:30 in the morning, you have all that time between breakfast and lunch to just go crush your goals and be creative and be spontaneous. But then at 12, you're going to eat your next meal. Your body knows it. And if you feel good, you can do so much more creative work in the world. Right? So here are some ideas for people who suffer with constipation and gas and bloating. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. So we are looking for warm, heavy, oiled foods. Ready? So think of soups and stews and things like that. So when hydrating for a person with winter desert belly digestion, I would encourage you to definitely drink water, but it's very important what I'm about to say about water, alrighty? So many people chug cold water all day long, and they pee all day long and many times throughout the night, and they always still feel thirsty, okay? And so I want you to imagine a cold winter desert, alrighty? So in a winter desert, the ground is very dry. And if I were just to dump a bunch of ice water on it, the ice water would probably just run right off into a culvert and go away. It wouldn't actually saturate through the ground, right? And so if you are a person with a vata digestion constitution or a winter desert belly, I want you to think about your body not as a winter desert, red clay, hard, kind of environment. We're going to try to make your internal environment more like a potted plant, or if you're starting seeds in the springtime, we wouldn't start seeds in red, hard clay, right? We would go and we would get beautiful soil that's very permeable. It has those little flakes that help hold on to moisture. We want to make our bodies hold on to moisture too, okay? So how do you water a plant, right? Do you just dump a bunch of water on top and run away? No, especially a baby plant, you want to water it little by little all day, right? And if you drink warm water, that's an even better way to hydrate yourself, because warm water, your body doesn't need to call in the ambulance to warm that water up first, right? So that takes away from your digestive fire. If you're drinking cold water, your body is constantly having to work to warm it up. So what I would suggest is getting a thermos and filling it with warm water for the day and sipping warm water throughout the day. You can even set the timer on your phone, right? And sipping warm water throughout the day will help it actually permeate all of those tissue layers we talked about and help you not have to pee all day, right? Not have to pee in the night, okay? So warm water is a really important thing. And if warm water is gross, just try half a cup in the morning when you get up, right? And then you can always add on to that. And so make sure that it's warm or at least room temperature, right? And when you're thinking about hydrating yourself, I want you to think about not just drinking water. because a lot of times the water will just run off if your body isn't like that rich, nutrient dense soil that wants to suck up all those nutrients, right? And so what you can drink is warm water. You can drink herbal tea throughout the day that has warm demulcent flavors like cinnamon, licorice, marshmallow root, cloves, right? So we want to warm up our bodies and we want to help provide that sort of sticky layer. Think of your hydration as like a basket. So the basket has holes in it, right? So we want to make sure that as we're drinking things, we want to put minerals in our basket to start blocking those holes. We want to put sticky or demulcent things in the basket to sort of make a layer so that the water doesn't just go right through. It sort of pauses and has a chance to absorb, right, into our lymphatic layer, our rasa layer, and into our blood, our rakta layer, going all the way through the muscles and the fat and the bone and the nerves, all the way to the reproductive, right? We want to think about watering our bodies just like a new plant. Alrighty. So other things that you can drink if you're feeling very dehydrated is an Ayurvedic Gatorade recipe. Alrighty. So in the morning, maybe get a big quart jar and put warm water in the whole thing, and then squeeze some lime and squeeze and put some salt. Now, if you do have winter desert belly digestion, lemon would actually be more heating for you, so that would be a good thing. Me with more volcano digestion, I like to put lime because that's cooling. So for you, whatever you need, right? And then a sprinkle of mineral salt. This is not iodized table salt, but it's like the pink Himalayan salt, or you can get that at the Dollar Tree, right? And then just high quality salt in your water, and that will help you. The salt helps maintain moisture in your body, right? And so that's really important. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to focus on is food that you would feed a baby. Okay, I'm not saying you're a baby, but easily digestible food. So soups and stews that have been cooked in one pot, roasted veggies and hearty proteins that are well spiced with digestive spices, right? Like ginger and cumin and things like that, that will really help your digestion rev up, right? And so salted, make sure that your food is salted well and has plenty of healthy fats and fiber. So ghee is one kind of healthy fat that Ayurveda recommends. It has specific kinds of lipids that really help replenish your body and help make it healthy. It's spelled GHEE, and you can get that at your local grocery store or online. Coconut oil is a cooling fat, but it's also a really great one for hydrating your body and making sure you have healthy fats within you. Of course, olive oil is another great one. You know, sesame oil is actually the best one because it's heating for that cold digestion. So pick your healthy fat. And sometimes people put it in their tea, right? Maybe ghee in your tea and things like that. Other things that you can drink are some warm milk at night, right? Like either cow's milk or coconut milk or almond milk. Pick your milk, right? And heat it up and put a little bit of nutmeg in there. And that can really help calm you down at night and things like that. Sleep is a whole nother thing that we can talk about at another time. If you'd like to hear about that, just let me know. So what the point here is with winter desert belly is that we're always going to avoid cold, light, rough food, like green smoothies, corn chips, popcorn, salads, things like that, unless it's like the middle of summer and your digestion's doing really well. Okay. All right. So we're getting towards the end here. This is an important thing about treating your digestion like a baby. So this is tips for both volcano and desert digestion. Alrighty, so this is tips for everyone. So in the morning, see the little cute baby at the bottom of the screen. We want to wake our digestion up. We don't want to just wake up at 6:30 and start pounding the bacon and eggs, right? We want to make sure that we wake her up slowly and carefully. So I wanted to show you all something. This is a tongue scraper. And what I do in the morning upon waking is I use the restroom and then I go pee first. And then I come to the sink and I splash cold water in my face and I get all the sleep out of my eyes if I have any. I towel off my face. And the next thing I do is I grab my tongue scraper. You can use a spoon from your kitchen as well. But what I do is I go like this, and I look on there and see what has been scraped off my tongue. Alrighty. With my constitution, a lot of times it's clear. It might have some white in it. Sometimes there's a tiny bit of yellow, just depending, on what kind of toxins my body has released over the nighttime. But I'll see it on here. And that stuff goes into the sink and I wash this off and I put it back in my drawer. Okay. But before I scrape, sometimes I look and just see what's on my tongue. What part of my tongue is cloudy, right? It holds information that's really good for me about my digestion. Alrighty. So after you scrape your tongue, you can give her a morning bath. And that means drink warm water with lemon or lime upon waking. It's like a shower for your insides and it really helps with morning elimination, okay? And so give your baby an eating routine. Make sure that you eat at the same time-ish every day when possible, okay? Don't overfeed her. Get to know what true hunger feels like in you and experiment with Anjali or Goldilocks portions. Now, Anjali means 2 hands cupped, right? And so the idea is that my 2 hands are the size of my individual stomach. Your hands might be larger or smaller than mine, but we all have our hands and we can all see how big our stomach is. And the idea is that when we eat, we want to put some food and then also have some room for air and water so that things can churn around and really, we don't want to overload our washing machine of digestion, right? We want to make sure that it's not overfull, okay? So in my pottery business, I make bowls that are exactly the size of my hands and many other people I know's hands, larger and smaller than mine too. And so these are really helpful for when we're eating and just to see our portions. Of course, we eat more if we're hungry, right? It's not about portion control or calorie restriction. It's more about recognizing the size of our stomachs. And so one other thing is that a lot of times, especially in the afternoon, we might feel what we think is hunger, but it actually might be thirst. So drinking another quart of water in the afternoon around 1 or 2 after pitta time, that hot time when the sun is highest in the sky and our bile production is the highest, we might want to drink that water again just to rehydrate ourselves to get through the drier part of the day between 2 and 6 p.m. So don't overfeed her, give her an eating routine, give her a morning bath and wake her up. Let's see what else we're gonna do today. Okay, and at the end of the day, we're gonna put her to bed. So just like we were talking about how bile production decreases as the sun goes down, we want to put our baby of digestion to bed. So we want to avoid snacking or eating after the sun goes down. And this will help with natural melatonin production and getting us sleepy for bed. Right? And that will give us a deep sleep and a nightly natural way of helping our liver cleanse every single night. Because if digestion has completed, the liver can really clean house. It's almost like you've pushed the chairs and the comforters back, or the couches back for the cleaner to come in and clean the floor, right? And that's your liver, the major detoxification organ of your body, okay? And also, another thing that we don't want to do during the day is underfeed her. So snacking all day between meals tends to drown out that Agni, right? And so just making sure that you're experimenting with just right portions that can get you to the next meal. There are some people who might need to eat snacks throughout the day, especially those of you perhaps who have that winter desert digestion, but it really does depend on exactly what's going on with you. So don't take that word for it. We'll need to talk further, but just making sure that you're eating as much as you can 3 times a day. And then some people will need snacks and many people can just do the 3 meals a day. If I do get hungry around 8:30 or 9 before I go to bed, I'll drink tea. And if I'm even hungrier, I might drink, like a golden milk, a spiced milk, maybe almond milk or cow's milk in my case, with a little bit of turmeric and nutmeg and cardamom and cloves. It's so good and it really helps you get sleepy and gives your stomach something to chew on while you go to bed, but really doesn't fill it up with another meal, right? Okay, so remember, babies don't eat salad and corn chips, right? And so treat your digestion like a baby. If you are having these volcano or desert digestions, right? You can help yourself reset by thinking about what would I feed my stomach if it were a baby, right? So no matter your digestive challenge, one-pot meals like soups and stews are warm, smooth, oily, heavy, and they are the easiest to digest for resetting periodically. Raw foods that are cold, rough, and light are the hardest to digest, so those salads and green smoothies. So save those for times when your digestion is like running like a Porsche, right? We want to save those for times in the middle of the day or maybe the summertime, depending on who you are and when it is, right? Remember that cooked food is pre-digested and requires fewer enzymes and just overall gives your body a break. Righty. So we are going to show you some recipes here. The Thai coconut soup, there's a vegan and a chicken version there. That's a really wonderful one for volcano belly because coconut is cooling, right? There's the Cool Your Jets tea, which is the cumin, coriander, and fennel tea, is a really wonderful way to cool yourself down. In the summertime, you can drink that cool, but you can also, or room temperature, right? Hibiscus tea is a really great way with lime and maybe some coconut water to cool yourself. That's a great drink to bring to the beach, right? Pomegranate with lime and aloe vera. There you go. All righty. So now if you have the winter digestion with the gas, constipation, and gas and constipation, balancing our digestion with the qualities, the gunas of warming, moist, heavy, and stable are needed, right? So here's an example of a mung dal khichdi. This is sort of like the rice and beans of the Ayurvedic world, where you eat rice, yellow mung beans, and veggies together all in one pot. Now, some people say that lentils give them gas, okay? So when we're thinking about beans and we're thinking about winter desert digestion, we always want to go for the smallest beans we can find. And it's really great if you soak them overnight and then get that water out, right? In the colander or whatever, just wash them, get that first layer off of any sort of gassy stuff that would go. So soaking them really helps start breaking them down. You can put some bay leaves in there as well, or some cumin, just to help that digestion process start in the bowl, in the water overnight on your kitchen counter, right? So try soaking them if you can, alrighty? Ginger lime pickle is a really great recipe where you take, the ginger root that look like thumbs in the grocery store, and you can peel them off with a spoon or just chop it off with a knife, that skin, and then cut them into quarter-sized pieces. Put that in a little Tupperware container, and then you sprinkle some mineral salt on top and you squeeze a lime on there, okay? You shake it up and you put it in the fridge. And about 30 minutes before a meal, if you're not feeling quite hungry and you feel like you want to feel that, the strong hunger before you eat to make sure your body's ready, you can just pop one of those in your mouth. They're very pungent, so they're spicy and they're salty and they're sour. And so that all gets your body ready to go, ready for the party, okay? And for those of you who love chai, there's a winter desert digestion chai recipe here that has all of the heating spices like cinnamon and anise. And some of these are demulcent as well, so that'll help line that basket of hydration. All righty, so I would love to know if you all have any questions, and you can schedule an appointment with me, a one-on-one appointment. For the end of my Ayurvedic health counseling journey, I am doing community consults, and I am offering in April and May almost a 75% discount on these consults, where we will sit on my front porch or have a Zoom meeting for 1 hour, and you will fill out an intake form. You'll track what you're eating for a few days for me. You'll fill out your body map on joyfulbelly.com so we can see all of the qualities that are elevated or below normal in your body. And so I'll have all that information, and then we'll meet for an hour. And then I will write up my report of findings and run it through the faculty at my school. And then, 3 to 6 weeks later, I will get back with you either by phone or we can do a Zoom call just to report my findings and give you some ideas that you can research to see if they're right for you for your digestion or other health challenges that you might be having. So I'm really excited to hear from you. If you'd like those are $50, and they include both the consultation and the follow-up report of findings visit. Okay, I'm going to give you my email now. It's not on the screen. My email is Ona Armstrong, so that's spelled ONA armstrong@gmail.com. And so you can just send me an email if you'd like to be one of my community consults. I need to do 25 of them in April and May, and I would love to have you there. Alrighty, I'm going to stop sharing here so we can say goodbye. And thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed presenting this. Please let me know over email if you have any questions. Have a great day and be in good health.